Hi everyone, welcome. My name is Billy. Today I would like to share with you several winter staples that I recently made using primarily knitted fabric. And this in a way is a bit of a continuation from all the pajamas that I made using knit fabric that I shared with you in my last video number 70. So in a way, I'm on a roll, here and just serging away garments using my serger. In a way, it's a nice change from the typical work dresses that I have been making. Before I officially start today's garments, I thought I would share with you very quickly about this t-shirt I am wearing. As you can see, it's a fairly fitted t-shirt with little cuffs, at the sleeves. So really nothing special about this t-shirt except for the fact I was surprised that I managed to cut it out of the remaining portion of 2 yards of cotton jersey. I originally made a t-shirt dress that I talked about in my video number 10, also using the New Look 6246 pattern. And then I made it a hooded pajama dress, also using the New Look 6246 pattern that I talked about in my video 70. And when I was making the hooded pajama dress, I was not trying to preserve any fabric for anything at all. I was just, making it. And then after I finished cutting it, I just felt like maybe I actually could squeeze a t-shirt out of the remaining fabric. And miraculously, I was able to. So that's why this t-shirt somehow special to me in that way. And one thing I really like about this is that the little cuff here, I just think is so darling. And exactly like the floral print pajama top from my video 70. This band is 80% of the neckline, and the little band here for the sleeves is 90% of the circumference of the sleeves. As you can see, it really works very well. And in a way, it's a little different from the pajama version because in this case, the bands that I cut out is 2 inches wide instead of 2.5 inches. But I think in a way, I might like this proportion a little better. But anyway, I just really love it. So I thought I would share with you very quickly. So the first official garment that I will share with you today is this gray turtleneck that I made using about 1.5 yards of about 60-inch wide, 100% cotton knit that I purchased from movefabrics.com about 2.5 to maybe 3 years ago. And so here's a close-up look of this texture and the color. It is so soft. I just really love this cotton. It really feels so amazing on the skin. So really happy about this. So about this turtleneck is that traditionally, I am just not a fan of turtlenecks because traditionally they are really close-fitting, and obviously it makes sense so that it will keep you warm. But then I always feel kind of claustrophobic when I wear that type of turtlenecks. So really I can count on one hand the number of turtleneck sweaters I owned before making my own garments. However, when I was looking through the tutorials for the hoodie that I talked about in my last video number 70, I also came across a turtleneck tutorial by Alyssa from Thoughtful Creativity. And so I decided, you know what, maybe I will try it since I could customize the size of the turtleneck so that it's a bit more loose fitting and I don't feel like directly touching my skin and making me feel claustrophobic. And so I decided to try out her tutorial, and I'm very happy to report that her tutorial works out great. And so I will also link her tutorial in the description box below. So about the pattern that I use for this turtleneck and also every other ones that I will share with you today, they are all based on the same good old New Look 6246 pattern that I previously talked about in my videos number 9, 10, and also number 70 in my last video when I talked about various pajamas that I made. And so the modifications that I made for this gray version is that I follow her tutorial for the turtleneck. So in this case, I raised the neckline from the New Look pattern by about 3 inches and then drafted the turtleneck. And then I added the bishop sleeves that's self-drafted, and I talked about how I drafted the bishop sleeve in my last video number 70. So really, as you can see, the same pattern that I only bought one time, but I have unlimited variations, you know, depending on the neckline and the sleeves to go with it. And so that is such a great way to use a pattern repeatedly without having to buy something new and trying to fit a new pattern to my body measurements. So I'm just really loving this approach. Because this cotton knit is, you know, somehow it kind of stretches very easily. So even during the construction process, I could tell that it was stretching already. And so now the end result is a much more loose fitting top than originally, you know, envisioned. And for example, the shoulder, instead of, you know, at the shoulder seam, instead of at my shoulder, it kind of drooped down by maybe 1 inch. And so as a result, the bishop detail now looks a bit, you know, kind of, it's almost, the sleeves almost look too long, but really it should be like this. So then you could very easily see the effect of that bishop sleeves. But it is so soft and so comfortable. So I'm still debating whether I want to try to shrink it by drying in my dryer on high. Normally I don't dry anything on high except for sheets and towels. But I may do that, but I'm not sure yet. So, you know, so I have to figure out what I want to do with this. But I'm just really happy how my first attempt of the combination of the loose fitting turtleneck and the bishop sleeve works out. And so here is a quick video of this gray sort of sweater, and I paired it with a pair of 3.5 inch heels, and I just really love it, and it's perfect, and it's so cozy, and it's perfect for going out or just staying home. And so I'm really happy about how this first attempt turned out. So after the success of the great turtleneck sweater, I was just so in love with the combination of this very loose fitting turtleneck and the bishop sleeves. So immediately I set out to make another one. And so this is a second version of that combination. And in a way, I also wanted to see how the patterning works out because that gray knit fabric was super stretchy, and so in a way I knew that was not a good fabric to use as a test or muslin, and so I wanted to make one with a bit more sturdy knit fabric, and so that is this result. And so this one is made from 1.5 yards of about 58 inch wide 100% cotton from Joann.com that I purchased just right before Christmas last year. And so this is what it looks like. So in a way, you could see a little better, you know, the bishop sleeve details. So this navy blue version is exactly the same as that gray version earlier with only one change. After I made up that gray one, I decided I wanted to raise the turtleneck height ever so slightly. So I raised it by 1/2 inch. But because the way, you know, this is constructed, there are 4 layers here at this turtleneck area when you fold it down. So that means to raise the neckline, you know, this turtleneck by 1/2 inch, I need to increase the height of the pattern piece by 2 inches. So here is a quick video of this navy blue turtleneck. And I paired the turtleneck top with a pair of blue jeans. And in one case, I paired the ensemble with a pair of 3.5-inch heels in black for a more dressed up look. And then for a more casual look, I paired the ensemble with a pair of loafers. And I like them both very much. And so I am really happy about how this navy blue version turned out. After the success of the earlier two turtlenecks made using cotton, I decided I wanted to make a third version, but this time using this wool tweed. This is a woven wool tweed that I purchased from movefabrics.com about 2.5 years ago. And so this is a close-up look of this. As you can see, it's a bit of it's a definitely sort of earth tone colors. And this is the close-up look of the tweed itself. And also with the same bishop sleeves and also the turtlenecks. And so about this fabric is that originally I bought this fabric from movefabrics.com with the intent to make some sort of outerwear. But when it arrived, the fabric was completely different from what I thought it would be. Number one, it has a lot more drape than what I saw, which of course is, just the nature of buying something online. So it is what it is. However, one thing that I was somewhat disappointed, actually I was very disappointed in, was just like this fabric, you can't see very well on the screen, but it just looked like it peeled already, even before it touches water, when it's still brand new. And as a result, this fabric was totally not suitable for making anything for work. So it's just been sitting in my stash for all this time. And I originally purchased 3 yards of this fabric. So I actually used half of yard of this fabric as a batting or the middle layer for a doggy quilt that I made for my dog's birthday almost 2 years ago. So I still have about 2.5 yards of the fabric left. And so when I decided I wanted to make a third version, I thought, you know what, I had nothing to lose, so let me just try it with this one here to see how it works out. And actually, I'm really happy how it worked out, especially considering the number of mistakes that I made with this one, because I totally forgot to take into account the fact that this is a woven fabric and not a knit fabric, and therefore it has no stretch at all. And any kind of stretch is purely from the fact that this is wool, and so wool naturally has a little bit of a give, but it definitely is not stretchy whatsoever. So this patterning is exactly the same as that navy blue version. And so the mistake I made was that number one, I totally forgot that when measuring the turtleneck, I need to measure the circumference of my head. So then, the turtleneck portion would go through the head, because obviously this woven fabric does not stretch. So the first turtleneck piece I cut out was totally wrong, and so it would not even go through the head at all. So I had to measure it, and then so in my case it is 22 inches, the circumference for my head. So then I need to do that. And so the second mistake I made was, as they always say, measure twice and cut once, which I did not do. And so I just measured it, said, okay, let me cut this neckline so it will match the 22-inch circumference of the turtleneck piece. But unfortunately, my measurement was off, and also because this fabric did stretch a little bit, so the neckline that I ended up cutting ended up being about 28 inches in circumference. And so there was a 6-inch difference between the neckline of the sweater and the turtleneck piece. And so originally I just thought that there is no way I could even connect the two pieces. But actually magically it worked out, as you can see. It actually, because the wool has such a nice sort of a give. So as you can see, I was able to ease it in and it's perfectly smooth. So this is another reason why I really enjoy working with wool. And the third mistake that I made with this one was just the sleeve length. So originally, after I cut out the big hole of the neckline, but before I attached the turtleneck piece, I tried on this top, and then I decided, okay, this fabric stretched a bit, and so I shortened the sleeves by 2 inches. However, the mistake here was that I should have waited until after I attached the turtleneck piece. Because what happened was, because of the 6-inch difference between the neckline and the turtleneck, so as a result, after I attached the sweater to the neckline, in a way it got pulled up just because of the neckline. And because I already shortened the sleeves already, so now once these got raised up because of the connection to the turtleneck, now the sleeves become too short. So in a way now it's about 1 inch too short. But still okay. So so okay, that's mistake number 3 already, and so magically it still works out fine. And mistake number 4 is that I also forgot to take into account the cuff size. Once again, because this wool is woven, so it did not stretch. So I also forgot to increase the circumference of this cuff. But luckily, I was able still to get my hands in and out of this thing. So really, just like, I was just amazed how well this turtleneck sweater turned out, considering all these mistakes that I made. So I'm hoping by sharing these mistakes, you will not make them. But at the same time, as you can see, this new look pattern or any other t-shirt pattern that is meant for jersey fabric could easily be converted into something for a sweater, even a woven fabric, as long as you take into account the fact that the woven fabric does not stretch. So you need to make sure about your measurements for the turtleneck portion, and also the sleeve lengths, and also the cuffs. But otherwise, I really am so happy how this works out. And really, amazingly, this has to be one of the favorite garments I've ever made. So life is just interesting how things worked out. Even though, of course, sometimes things don't work out. But in this case, I'm glad that, despite all these mistakes, the sweater turned out so nicely. So I could not be more pleased. So here is a quick video of this tweed turtleneck sweater. And in this case, I also paired the sweater with a pair of blue jeans and a 3-inch heel, sort of a penny loafer heels by Marc Jacobs. And I'm just really happy how this works out. And despite the fact that this is made from wool, and it's surprisingly not scratchy whatsoever. And so I am really happy how this fabric, despite not being the right choice for something for work, turns out to be perfect choice for this somewhat rustic looking turtleneck sweater. So I could not be more pleased and truly happy how I matched the fabric with this pattern. The final garment that I will share with you today is this hunter green sort of shift dress made from 1.5 yards of about 60-inch wide knitted wool that I purchased from movefabrics.com about this time last year. And so here's a close-up look of the color and the texture. I'm not sure if it comes across, on the screen, but it looks a bit like a booklet kind of a texture, so I really love it. And so, same turtleneck and also the bishop sleeves. So about this dress is that after the success of that tweed dress, I wanted to make another one. And since I have this fabric also sitting in my stash anyway, I decided to, use this one. And originally I wanted to make another sweater top, but then I knew there would be a little, there would be some fabric left over, and from that 1.5 yards that I purchased. And since I knew I would have no use for the scraps, I decided to just extend it into this shift dress. And that's how it came about. And so this one is exactly the same as that tweed dress, minus the mistakes that I made. So in this case, I made sure the turtleneck is wide enough, and also the cuffs, as you can see, is a bit, sort of more loose fitting in this case. And so it really works out great. And actually this fabric is a bit two-sided. One side of it is a sort of a standard sort of cable north-south orientation. And one side is this boucle looking thing. And I wasn't sure which side was the right side or the wrong side, but then I decided I prefer this boucle looking side. So I decided to use the side as the right side of the fabric. Unlike the 3 garments that I shared with you earlier today, which were made entirely on my serger, with the exception of the hand finish, which was done using the twin needle method that I talked more in detail in my last video. In this case, this one, it was just too thick. This fabric was just too thick for my serger. And actually it was even too thick to even just run through the serger as a single layer just to finish the edge. As a result, I had to sew this dress on the walking foot of my machine. And also I used the longest stitch length, which is 5mm for this case. And I didn't have to worry about, not using a stretch stitch, just because because then the stretch is here and not at the side seams, because as you can see, this dress is very roomy. And also because this fabric, did stretch out a bit. As you can see, the shoulder seam is a bit below my actual shoulder, so it's very roomy and very loose fitting. So I was not concerned about using a stretch stitch or popping the stitches, because I would not be stretching it out. So after I sewed up the dress, it just did not feel secure about the stitching, because the seams were not finished. So what I did was, after I sewed up the seams, I also sewed in between the edge of the fabric and the seam allowance another line of zigzags, just to kind of secure it. But even then, I just did not feel comfortable, because I could tell this fabric would unravel fairly easily. So what I did was I just hand finished the edges, so going around the seam allowance and just kind of everywhere. And so now it feels quite secure. And one funny thing about hand finishing the edges of this dress is that because it's wool, and when it was sitting on my lap while I was finishing up the edges, it feels as if I was covered under a wool blanket. So it feels incredibly warm and incredibly cozy. So that was such a nice experience. So I really enjoyed it. And in this case, I also finished the hem of the dress by hand, because even though I could technically finish it using the twin needle method, because this fabric is much thicker, so then the regular stitches really sinks in, and it became a bit unsightly, and I didn't care for that look. So I just unpicked the whole thing and just finished the edges by hand, which is fine. It didn't take me very much time at all, and so I did not mind it. And so now, as you can see from this picture, it has a very smooth finish for that hem. So I am really glad about how it works out. So here is a quick video of this hunter green wool dress, And I paired the dress with a pair of 3.5-inch heels in black. And I'm just really loving this dress. I feel as if I'm wearing a blanket and yet I look perfectly put together. So I am really happy how this works out. So I cannot wait when COVID is over and when I can go out to restaurants and also to meet up with friends, and this will be a perfect dress just for a relaxed evening out. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have enjoyed today's video. And as you can see, today's garments are all pretty much made from the same pattern, with the same turtleneck and the same bishop sleeves. But by using different materials, I get two very different looks. One is the one made with cotton, sort of cotton jersey, and one is the one made with thicker sweater type of material. And in a way, this really increases the versatility of the same pattern. And these garments were all made from a very basic and very simple t-shirt pattern. In my case, it was the New Look 6246. But by changing up the neckline and also the sleeves, really we could get so many variations from a very simple pattern. I guess I'm a little more fearless than a lot of people when it comes to pattern hacking. But as you can see, very rarely did I make a mistake that could not be salvaged. And also, I'm a firm believer that garment making as a hobby should be fun. And you probably could tell I'm just having so much fun making modifications to a very basic t-shirt pattern to achieve different looks. And in a way, this goes beyond not having to purchase a new pattern. In a way, I really feel that I am acquiring knowledge and skills, and that is a wonderful feeling because I feel like I'm really progressing as a sewist. So that gives me such a sense of accomplishment and satisfaction. So this is another reason why I really love sewing as a hobby. So on that note, I hope you will stay safe, be well, and I hope I will see you soon. Bye-bye.